Hello, and welcome to Prepare for the Fair of Researching Employers. I'm Paul Hutchinson, Executive Director from the Career Services Office. Today we're going to talk a little bit about past career fairs, the information that we've had from the employers that participated in the career fair. We're also going to show you what you should research. We're going to review an employer website and go through some of the items that are important to be looking for when you're researching employers. We're also going to look at how Google and LinkedIn and those searches can also be helpful and give you more information. And then we're also going to go through Handshake itself, going to go through the items that you can find in the employer information in Handshake, and then finally talk about how you should create a short list of things you'd want to do, a top 12 list, and then how you can kind of map out your time at the career fair. So talk a little bit about the past career fair demographics. So in 2023, our career fair was virtual. We had 45 employers represented. These are the various industries that those employers represented. And you can see the two highest ones in 2023 were healthcare and also research and academia. Oftentimes these industries will continue to be the same, but you'll notice in the next upcoming slides that they'll probably also see kind of variations with how career fairs have gone on in the past. If we look at the 2022 Public Health Career Fair, so that year it was still virtual. We had 94 employers registered for that career fair. In that career fair, we also had a number of employers that were from all over the country, new employers that had been joining the career fair for the first time. And in that year, the career fair actually had a high number of healthcare and research and academia. So just like in 2023, our most represented industry areas were healthcare and also research and academia. I will say research and academia includes anything within a academic institution, either doing research, maybe it's in a hospital setting. So it's a broad thing, but it's usually not faculty roles that are being recruited for in these areas. The 2021 Public Health Career Fair, so this was the first year from the pandemic that we were doing a virtual career fair. And in that year, we actually had a very high number of healthcare and biotech companies that had registered for the career fair. But again, you'll still see those same industries. Government was also very high. And again, consulting was very high at that time too. I will certainly say with this particular year of doing the career fair, the first year doing virtual, and also knowing that there was a lot of public health work that was being done remotely, this could have played into a lot of the organizations that were looking for or looking to recruit or looking to hire quickly public health graduates from as a follow-up from the pandemic and the kind of worldwide shutdown. And then in 2020 was the last year that we did a public health career fair in person. And at that time, that was our largest public health career fair at the time. So we had the most employers ever during that time that we hosted at the public health career fair. And you'll see in that year, we actually had a very high number of government agencies at that time. So agencies from federal agencies to state and local health departments, maybe nonprofits that did government work as well. But you'll see we had a very high number there. Academia and research was still high. Nonprofits were still high. And I should say overall, like these numbers might not quite add up to 62. And oftentimes what you're going to find, especially with public health employers, is that they are oftentimes representing multiple industries. So they could be in one as their primary and have some secondary, or they just work in a lot of different industries. So it's also based on how employers are representing themselves. I bring up this information just to give you kind of a trend of what you could expect at the Public Health Career Fair. What are the industries that most employers are going to be a part of? And to know too that there's in any given year that's not sure like which industry is going to be most widely represented. Next that we're going to cover is what should you research? So in terms of the information that I think is key for looking at and researching employers, you want to look geographically where they're at, or even to see too if they're still allowing for remote work, or if they're in a geographic region that you want to be in, or if you're not bound by geography, you can certainly decide which place you want to be at. Another thing is the mission, vision, and strategy, or the goals of the office or the organization as well. Oftentimes, these are going to be things that are prominently presented somewhere on the website. And then they'll also to have maybe information about the recent projects that they're doing, the maybe recent news from their organization, maybe things that have been posted. Look a little bit too at the history. How long has the organization been around? How many years have they been working in that particular space? Do they have any management or employee data? Sometimes organizations will have information about employees and what they do and their work there. If they have any information about their executive teams, like who's leading the who's leading that particular organization, who are the main executives or the presidents and vice presidents. Looking to see who's on their advisory boards. So a lot of times organizations will have individuals that are working within various industries that are giving them advice about what to do and how to do that. Well, you can also use the information of the people that are working at advisory boards as maybe potential other places to look at as well. So just in looking for one organization, there's a variety of different things to kind of look at. I do think it's important to really kind of pay attention to the mission and vision and the goals of the organization to see if they align with what it is that you would be wanting to do and what you have a strong interest in. You will see the one thing that is not here is going to their careers page. And I'm going to get to that in a second, but I think in terms of just doing your background research, this would be a good piece of information to pay attention to as well. So why should you do this research? Well, it will allow you to interweave your background into what the employer has to offer. So if you've done a deep dive into an organization, done the research on them, you're going to be able to kind of bring that into the conversation you would have with them at the career fair. And it also allows you to look at the strongest qualities of that particular employer. And it's a very good way to be very impressive to the people that you're going to talk to. So if you go into the career fair with added information about what they do and how they do it, these are going to be key pieces of information that they might find to be, hey, I'm going to remember this candidate because this candidate is really interested in what we do within our organization. Next thing we're going to look at is when we go to an employer website is where can we find this information and what it is, what it could look like within an organization. So I'm going to use one of our organizations that has recruited with us in the past, Japigo. So you may be familiar with this organization, you may not, but if you go to the Japigo website page, this is their landing page. And then if you go to this About section, it's going to cover all those things that I was just kind of talking about, history and mission. It's got to have something here about annual reports, leadership, our experts. We have an advisory board, the connect with us or work with us, and then the career stuff. So these are the kind of sometimes the key places to want to go to get this information and find it. And I would just kind of, do some glancing through this information, see if there's any key items of information that you can pick up that would be helpful for you either to learn more about an organization or, like I say, to do a deeper dive into that. When we go to the what we do, or for Japigo, they call it their expertise section. This actually gives you their areas in terms of what they do. And if one of these areas that they work in is one that you're interested in, then this would be where you can concentrate what it is that you're looking at. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have work in these particular areas at the time that you're looking, but you can at least then know that they're working in a space that I have a background in or that I have an interest in wanting to go into. And then finally, you're going to go to the careers page for any organization as well. And what you're doing with the careers page is not to so much look for the job that you're going to apply to, but I would say pay attention to like how many openings are there, what are generally the requirements for that position, like how much experience, what is the education, what are also to some of the areas that are in need of help. So maybe going back to this one, going back to the previous slide where they're talking about the information in terms of the things that they do they have a high number of jobs that they're looking for in that particular work as well. And so because of that, one of the things that you're going to allow yourself to do is to get a general idea to say, well, if this organization is what I'm interested in, they have the areas that I would like to work in, they have jobs, then maybe this would be a place where I can kind of prioritize my search because I know that there might be a greater likelihood that I can find a job here as well. Next, let's talk a little bit about targeted Google and LinkedIn searches. So in the same way that you're going to go to a company's page, I would say it's a good idea to do a Google search of that page as well. And you're going to get to some of the same things that I was kind of talking about. So you're going to get, some of that background information. You get, the quick links to those things that we're looking for. The other thing you can do with a targeted Google search is oftentimes it'll have this people also search for component where you can look for similar organizations to the one that you're interested in. Not everyone will have like a list, but sometimes you're going to find if there's if people have searched for JPIGO, that means they've also probably searched for some other types of organizations that are very similar to them. And then it also too will give you an idea of maybe one or two different organizations, maybe not ones that are going to be at the career fair, but ones that are matching up with something you're interested in when doing the research. And then when you use LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is another place where you can go. So most organizations will have a LinkedIn page for you to follow in LinkedIn, and to where this page is going to have similar information, the about, the things that they do, the people that work there. And so it gives an overview, it gives an idea of what life is like to work there. It gives you also too some of the jobs that are kind of currently being recruited for. But it just in the same way with the targeted Google search, it has the people also search for. It has the same things for LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has this people also viewed these pages. And so what you can do is you can find that PSI, PATH, and FHI 360 are very similar to JPIGO. And then you can go down that deeper dive too, or follow those organizations in LinkedIn as a way to get some extra information about it. Next, we're going to talk about the excuse me, the information that's available to you using Handshake. So Handshake is where all of our employers are going to be posting and putting their information to register for the career fair. So when you go to your Handshake page, you can look by industry that they say that they're from. So your CDC obviously is a government organization. It'll have a short company description. This could be very similar to what they already have on their website. Maybe it's a more modified one for a particular type of work. But this just gives an overview of what that organization is. It'll give you job titles, and this isn't to say that this one saying none doesn't mean that they don't have jobs to recruit for. It just means they don't have anything right now posted in Handshake. And so they might have other jobs that they haven't yet posted in Handshake, but they're going to recruit for, or they're interested in wanting to meet with applicants about. So don't be alarmed if you see none in the job titles. It just means that there's nothing there posted in Handshake. But if they're participating in the career fair, I think you can have a strong likelihood that they're looking to recruit public health students. Next is job type. So job type is usually broken down by job, or it's an internship or volunteer work or fellowship, or other things as well. Look at this more as not to say these are the only things that they're looking for, but these are the possibilities of what they're looking for. It's not a guarantee to say that they're going to be looking for everything in these places. This is just they're trying to cover all their bases to say what they're willing to consider, what they're willing to look at. It's not to say that they're only going to be limited by these things. Next things you can look at are the major groups. So the organizations, when they are registering, they can choose various either specialties or subspecialties of public health. And you can kind of read into a little bit about what they're kind of looking for here. So if I were to read into these major groups, and some of these are going to be directly affiliated to your concentrations or your degrees that you're doing here. But I think one of the things you can look at with this is, well, they're probably looking for something, doing some sort of administration work. Maybe they're looking for somebody that has a background, maybe saying digital health or mHealth. They would consider somebody that has a background in nursing or has clinical experience in medicine. Maybe too, they're looking for somebody in epidemiology. Maybe they're not choosing biostatistics, but because they're choosing biotech and biology and statistics and math, my guess is they're probably looking for people that have strong backgrounds in statistics. So again, these are just the broad areas that they're choosing. These are just giving you some extra indicators of information as well. When it comes to school years, Handshake has things pretty much broken down by freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, master's, doctorate, postdoc, and alumni. Again, they're kind of covering everything. They know coming to this career fair, they're most likely going to get all students that are pretty much a master's student, but also too, at the same time, they're open to other students as well. When it comes to school years from them, the other thing too that they're kind of focusing in on, it's more to say what they're not looking for than what it is they're looking for with this. So it could be likely that anybody that has an advanced degree like a PhD or DRPH or even a postdoc, there's maybe less opportunities there, but you could still visit and talk with this organization if you would like. And then employment types, so they choose full-time, part-time. Sometimes they may choose internship as well. So these will, again, let you know what could be the possibilities or the things that they have available open. And then final one is work authorization. So work authorization can sometimes be a very tricky one, especially for international students, especially for government. So most likely you're going to have U.S. citizenship is required for anything that's a government agency, but they would be willing to consider accept students that are on OPT and CPT. So I think that's what you're looking at when you're looking for the work authorization. And it's, again, something you can use to prioritize the information that you'd find. I would go through this information, find the things that are key things that you're kind of looking for to see if that organization matches it, and then try to figure out where in your kind of priority list would it make sense for me to spend time trying to connect with and engage with this employer. And then next I want to kind of talk about this last part of it is how do you kind of create that list of employers that are worth your time and who you wanted to go visit. So what I think is a good idea to do is to come up with a list of about 12 and to break them up into 4 different tiers. So choose employers that you absolutely want to visit. Like they are absolutely the types of employers that you'd want to see. They're a good match. They are the organizations you're really interested in. Also then choose employers that you have a strong interest in so that you're, ones to where you could see yourself working there, you are, you're intrigued by them, or ones that now you've heard of. So the heard of could be is like, well, this may be the first time I'm being introduced to this employer. I'm not too sure much about them. I want to learn a little bit more to see if they might be a fit. And then finally, the ones that you've never heard of. So it is a good idea to actually visit organizations that you've never heard of or that you're not very interested in. Twofold way that it helps. One is it can give you some added kind of context about work that's done. It also too is a good way for you to practice then your kind of interaction and engagement with an employer that you have a strong interest in. So I would, create these kind of short lists for yourself. There's not a likelihood that you're going to be able to visit every single employer at the career fair, and that's perfectly fine as well. We can allow you ways to connect with them afterwards, or find out, or you can do your own research on them and still follow up afterwards with them as well. And we'll talk about kind of post-career fair, some of the things that you can do in some later sessions as well. And then finally, to map it out. So we will have a floor plan of how all of the employers are kind of set up. This is from our last career fair that we had in 2020. And so you'll see, this is a general layout, and then you can kind of map out for yourself, well, where do I want to go first? Kind of going into the career fair and then just kind of browsing around is not always the best idea, but having an idea of who you'd like to target first is going to be a good idea. So with that, I want to say thank you for listening to this recording, and we look forward to seeing you at the Public Health Career Fair.